Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm excited to be here. My name is Verl Workman, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. We have incredible guests that are going to talk to our broker audience today about how to build their business for consistent income going forward. You know, if you're tired of downtime draining your wallet and trying to keep up with the peaks and valleys, if you start thinking strategically about your business and how to make it grow, you'll find that there's opportunity in any market, regardless of what's going on around you, to have consistent income. And that's what we're going to focus on and talk about today. So on behalf of RISMedia and our partner Imprev, we are excited about being here today and sharing with you how to really build your business for consistent income. Like I said, I'm Verl Workman with Workman Success Systems. I'm the CEO. We specialize in building seven-figure teams and helping brokers with their team solutions. Our sponsor today is Imprev, and we're excited to welcome Imprev. And right before I introduce Bill, I want to tell everybody that as we're going through the webinar today, and there's going to be a lot of content and a lot of information shared in a short period of time, I'm going to encourage you to locate on your screen, on your GoToWebinar control panel, the little box that says questions. And in that questions box, if you have a question during the broadcast, type it in. I'll be monitoring that. And so if either of our presenters spur a thought or you want to ask deeper, more clarifying questions, type them in there, and then we'll go ahead and ask those questions during appropriate times during the webinar. The other thing I'll encourage you to do is stay on till the very end of the webinar, where we have some valuable giveaways that'll be, they're actually awesome, and we'll share with you what those are as the webinar continues, and at the end we'll make a link available where you can download those. We're also recording the webinar, and we'll make the recorded webinar available to all of you that are here today as well. So without any further ado, let's welcome our partner. Now, I got to tell you that when we bring partners into these RISMedia webinars, it's strategic, meaning that we find companies that really have a message to speak to our audience, that make a difference in the clients that we serve. And we've invited Bill Yaman, who's the President and Chief Operating Officer of Imprev, to share with us some thoughts about what Imprev is doing. And Bill, I want you to know how much we appreciate you participating in these webinars. It's because of our partners that we're able to put these on every month, and we appreciate you being here. So thanks for being a partner, and tell us a little bit about what Imprev is up to.
Verl, thanks very much for the introduction. We're excited to be part of today's webinar. One of the things that I think is interesting as we think about building business for consistent income is, as we think about the brokers who are online with us today, they're probably struggling with that. I think most of them know that the way to build future business is by leveraging effectively the current business that you have. And we know that the best agents in our organization are doing just that. You know, they've got a listing. They're making sure that that listing is generating future business for them. But what we struggle with is how do we replicate that best practice of the best agent to make sure that future business is happening. So if you go to my next slide, Verl, really what we're all about is automation. We recognize that we can do all the training in the world that we can with agents, but until we use technology to help them be more effective, some of that training gets lost. And we do that, again, through automation. And the concept behind automation is really simple. You know, imagine a world where an agent takes a new listing, in a matter of hours, all the print, digital, and social media marketing they need to promote that listing and to drive future business from that listing is delivered to them in email. And imagine a world where that content is always up to date and unique content is delivered to the agent throughout that listing life cycle. So when they've got an open house, content to draw in new leads to the open house. When they close the property, you know, the ability to generate marketing content, print, digital, and social media that is used to promote that closure. So we think that the way to get through all this is by automating the content, again, for just listed, fulfill that marketing promise to the client that you made at the kitchen table, and you'll get that next referral business. With an open house, it's a way to draw in new folks to get new leads from that open house. We've got a price reduction, again, a way to generate interest in the home. And again, try to generate future business from that price reduction. And finally, the one that I think is the most important of all, getting the best practices of the best agents to promote the fact that they've been successful in selling a property in a location or a neighborhood. That's the way that they're going to find the neighbors who are going to want to sell in a week or a month or a year and drive that new referral business. So it's all about leveraging today's business to drive that future business. And how do we do that to make sure agents are successful? We think technology can help.
Bill, I appreciate that. You know, one of the things, we have a lot of mutual clients, and I'll tell you, when I find a client that has an Imprev back office that's running their design center or their back office automation of marketing, it basically takes all of the stress out of doing the basic fundamentals that everybody knows they should do, and makes it automated, and then takes it to another level with the quality of production. That's probably one of the things that I think Imprev does better than anybody is they provide, it's not just the touches, but it's the really high quality touches. The level of professionalism is unmatched.
I appreciate that comment, Verl. That's we strive to do that, and it's nice to be appreciated for it.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and thanks again for your support of the webinar. I want to jump right in next, and I want to introduce our first guest, and this is Dean deTonnancourt, and Dean is the president and CEO of Homesmart Professional Real Estate out of Warwick, Rhode Island. He was licensed in 1989. I've got to think about where I was doing in 1989. I was selling hot tubs and satellite dishes, Dean. So you were doing real estate when I was trying to figure out how to sell a 10-foot satellite dish.
You weren't even thinking about real estate.
I didn't even know. I didn't have a clue about real estate. I sold a satellite dish to a guy that made his millions in real estate, and that was my first exposure to maybe I ought to look at something different as a career. And I'll tell you, as I've gotten to know Dean, he's a great broker owner that's got a phenomenal business. He's currently ranking in the top of all agents statewide in listings and sales, so his business is cranking. He founded Homesmart Professionals Real Estate in 2014, and in the last 24 months, he's grown his company over 110 sales associates. And I want you to think about that. We have companies that are struggling to get 6 new agents in a year, and he's doing over 50, and that's tremendous growth. He was a founding member of Keller Williams in Rhode Island in 2000, so he's been in the business of owning his own brokerages and recruiting and building it. He's born in Coventry, and that's where he currently makes his home, is in West Warwick, Rhode Island. And so, Dean, I'm excited that you're here, and I appreciate you being on the call today and sharing with us some of your thoughts on how to keep momentum going, regardless of what's going on in the marketplace.
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate being here. I do want to start, if I may. For some reason, there might have been an information crossover. The stats you have is when we were 2 years in. We are now 5 years in with Homesmart here in Rhode Island, and we are at 3 locations with 230 agents here locally, as well as 20 agents just getting started in the state of Maine.
Well, congratulations.
So it might have been a crossover of emails.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I apologize for not having it right.
No worries.
You deserve to have the real numbers up there. I think that's phenomenal. If you were to say that there's one thing that's been the biggest roadmap to your success and your growth, what has it been?
Well, I think ultimately what we have striven to do here with Homesmart is create an environment where people truly are in an atmosphere where they can collaborate, they can work well together, and truly be treated like business persons. Ultimately, we know that the real estate is not a sales job; it is a career, and we treat our agents like professionals in the field. We give them the opportunity, the tools, the technology, the education, and support they need in succeeding both personally and professionally in the field. And they're finally in an environment where they're treated like that entrepreneur rather than a salesperson. And that has really been a big part of our growth pattern here, in both our market territories.
So what do you mean by that? I mean, what does it mean to treat someone like an entrepreneur, to treat someone like a business owner?
No, absolutely. No, great question. Ultimately, when you get into an environment where someone has access to everything that they need that applies to them specifically. When we look at the marketplace and we look at what tools are available, ultimately, let's be honest, every company has tools and technology and or should, and ultimately agents have access to all of that. But individual practitioners choose how to run their businesses their own way. They have a way to go about it. If you're new in the business, you're learning how to do it, but once you've learned how to do it, you're going to make it your own. If you're a seasoned veteran, you're going to make it your own in the industry, and you're going to handle it your way. So ultimately, you need to pick and choose what tools work for you, what marketing approaches work for your business, and how to best implement that in your own marketplace, whether it's a niche, whether it's a geographic territory. You want to have the ability to pick and choose what works for you and know what your cost value analysis is for that as a business person. So Homesmart allows us to have the platform in order to provide all of the tools that an agent needs at low cost, and they can then expand from that in their business, where in our compensation plan, they're retaining more of their earnings, so they can now apply that savings to things that would work for them in their particular business, and or just apply it to their everyday life and invest in their family and their future.
You know, it's one thing to get your agents to provide a bunch of tools. It's another thing to get them to use it. And so what are some of the things that you employ as an adoption strategy so that they take advantage of the tools that your company provides? Because I think the tools are sometimes the handcuffs that keep them from jumping from broker to broker to broker. Everybody has tools, but if you don't use them, then how good are they, right?
Well, and you're right. And that's the hard part, because when you look at the tools that are out there, there are so many. And sometimes, quite frankly, the technology is overwhelming. So you don't quite know what to use, and you have so much of it that you just shut down the program. So you just can't be bothered, and you use what we've always done. We're all creatures of habit, aren't we? You know, ultimately, we're just going to fall back to a pattern that's easy because we know it, rather than embarking on something new. So ultimately, it comes down to training them on the technologies and showing them how to be easy, you know, to use. Every system we have is ease of use and mobile friendly. So, you know, and many tools out there are. And what I really like in particular about our platform that Homesmart provides is that literally you can log in from anywhere. You can be remote. Agents today are not spending time in the offices like they used to in years past. And, you know, myself, 30 years in the business, I remember being in the office all day long. And today they're not doing that. So they need it when they need it and where they are. So it's a matter of understanding what tools they are, breaking it down to the least common denominator when it comes to what would apply to their businesses, and then expanding from it. So I think it's hands-on training, availability, remote training. All of our training is remote as needed, as well as in person if they prefer. And it really comes down to accessibility and ease of use.
So how do you go from, you know, you can provide, so I'm going to go back to the same, to a similar take off the same question, right? So you have all this great technology,
Sure.
these great platforms, they can access it from anywhere. You're doing training that's remote-based training, or they can do it in a classroom. So you give them a learning environment, whatever's conducive to the way they learn. And when you try and get them to come to the classes, they don't show up. How do you get them to change this mentality of, you know, I'm an independent contractor, I don't have to do anything, to, you know, I'm really trying to provide something of value? What do you do that's different that gets them to engage?
Well, I think that, you know, there are always those that will always want to do their own thing. They didn't join a brokerage because they want to be engaged. So, you know, and you need to embrace that. You need to understand that not everybody is going to be dependent on their brokerage, and you know, they need it. They need the assistance and the support when they need it, not when we think they should have it. So we have to adapt to their availability and need. But ultimately, for us, it comes down to excitement and enthusiasm in everything that we're doing. You know, we create the opportunity for them to be involved or as uninvolved as they want to be, whether it's events, you know, creating an event around a training component, you know, whatever we're doing throughout the year, you know, I mean, even right down to as simple as a business meeting. Our monthly business meetings, we have anywhere from 50 to 70 associates that come to our business meetings. You know, business meetings are the hardest thing to get people to come to. And ultimately, it comes down to content and value. If they see the value in it, they will come. You know, events, the same thing, and, you know, trainings. So creating that opportunity. Ultimately, again, there are some that we may never see. There are some that we see all the time. So, you know, we adapt and try different methodology of types of events and even venues that will attract people each time we create that event.
You know, I love that. In our pre-call, when we were talking about your business model, you said something that really interested me, and that is that you have accountability driven by the agents, where they choose accountability. You know, when I talk to brokers, or brokers hire us to consult or look at their business, one of the things that's consistent I hear from the broker is, I want it more for my agents, and they want it for themselves. How do I make them want it more? And I always tell them you can't want it for them. You have to create an environment where they choose accountability. And when you said that, I perked right up. So tell me a little bit more about what self-accountability means in your brokerage and how you're implementing that with your company.
Sure, absolutely. I think ultimately it comes down to trying to teach or coach to how they're going to receive it. I think there's a lot of time spent on teaching things like time blocking. And we all know that it's so hard to block time. You know, time blocking is such a difficult thing when we look at setting a perfect week calendar to set ourselves up. Ultimately, it comes down to teaching and coaching to time management more so than time blocking. You know, if they can learn time management, if they can balance their day, if something offsets their schedule, which it always does every day, if something offsets it, they train themselves and force themselves to reassign that task into their schedule somewhere else in that day. Because when something gets knocked out of your schedule, it doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be done. It still needs to be done. So when we look at accountability, and we'll do coaching sessions with multiple sessions that will allow folks to be part of a session, an accountability session, where they will come in for a segment of training and ultimately leave with an assignment that will follow them, and they have to answer for that the following week. We help them get into the pattern of accountability for their own business, because ultimately, while we're managing the day-to-day business, we also need to be scheduling the time for lead generation for future business. When we look at careers being built on repeat and referral business, the most successful careers are built on repeat and referral business. The sad reality is that people get into real estate now and they think they should go out and buy leads. And while that is one aspect of growing a business, it shouldn't be the focus of a truly balanced business. So we need to make sure that they create time management for lead generation to keep in touch with their sphere of influence and maintain, the status of top of mind in the minds of everyone they know.
I love that. Dean, I like to say there's no such thing as time management. We can't speed it up or slow it down. There's just me management. It's what we do with that finite resource called time. And I think you're saying the exact same thing. It's what are you going to do?
Yeah.
We use a little tool called the Daily Success Habits Tracker, where we ask our agents to track what they do in 30-minute increments so that they can see how much or how little time they actually spend doing dollar productive activities. And when they start tracking it, then they realize that they need to trade some of the things they're currently doing for things like prospecting or work in their sphere or making sure they're focused on their referral clients. So I love that you have that same focus.
Yeah, well, I think we find that. Yeah, well, the accountability comes into it where they need to answer to those things that made them busy in the first place. Ultimately, we all get caught up are we doing business or are we in busyness? Busyness versus business. We need to know the difference. We can't stop doing the things that created that busyness to begin with. So ultimately, when it comes down to scheduling yourself with goals and timelines and expectations for yourself, with accountability, whether it's weekly, monthly, whether it's an accountability partner. Many of our associates have created mastermind groups where they get together and hold each other accountable. Sometimes it's easier to have to answer to someone like a coach, as you're well aware in what you do at such a high level. Ultimately, answering to someone is what helps people hold themselves accountable. So, we create opportunities for that in whether it's education sessions, whether it's mastermind groups for different levels of production, so that they're peer-to-peer and they can understand what the struggles are that everyone's dealing with, in their same market segment.
So talk to me about your mentorship structure. So I don't think, I've learned this a long time ago, that if the agent doesn't have any skin in the game and they're not paying for mentorship or they're not paying for coaching, they're not going to do it. So talk to me about what you structure, how you motivate the mentor and the agent who wants the mentorship. How do you structure that in your company so it creates engagement and accountability?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody learns at a different pace, and everybody has different goals. Ultimately, when we look at the market, we talk about when we talk about, is it a downturn in the market, or do those particular struggles only exist in our minds? very often the market exists between our ears. It's really a mindset. So the challenges are different from agent to agent, and ultimately we've got to shift our support accordingly. So in our mentorship program that we've created, we have created an environment where we have a program director who oversees the program, handles the educational components in a classroom setting for all of the participants. And we have a roster of 10 coaches, and those are selling realtors. They're active in the industry, listing and selling real estate, but they've agreed to be part of this program to give back to the new associates. Any new associate to the industry in our structure, they're required to go through our mentorship program. The mentorship program teaches them how to build a business from as little as ground zero. Did you order your business cards? Do you have a professional headshot? To what are you doing to market to your sphere and continue to build that database? And it's literally weekly accountability sessions with their coach, whether it's in person or on the phone, for the first 3 months, very systemized, first 3 months. And we have a program that the coach follows with them. First 3 months, every week, they're speaking with their coach. Second 3 months of the program, every other week, they're speaking with their coach, obviously in between as needed. And the second 6 months of the program, it's only monthly, because at some point they don't need that weekly check-in unless they request it. And as in addition to that program, we're overseeing their first 5 transactions in the industry. So, ultimately following start to finish, from negotiations to contract to time frame management, contingencies, et cetera. So, it's very hands-on with regard to that program. And we've had so many successes in launching new careers because, they don't come in and they don't flounder trying to figure out what they do. That's the hardest part. Many of the programs I see out there, the education programs are, okay, you got a license, go out and sell, call me if you need me. And, I've seen, unfortunately, too many new agents be casualties of the industry that really had the opportunity for a promising career. They just didn't have the guidelines and the guidance that they needed. So when we teach, we, and coach to them, we look at something, we call it the 3 E's. We talk about excellence, we talk about empathy, and we talk about energy and excitement, and excellence itself is about, data, know your market. What's the average time on the market? What are the market segments? How do they affect? It's data that drives, the trust in the consumer as well as the competency. When we look at empathy, we got to ask the right question. What are your wants and needs analysis with a consumer? Ultimately, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And you need to know what's driving them in the move. If ultimately all we do is sell their home and we haven't accomplished their goal, then we haven't done our job. And too many associates go in and they focus on selling the house, but they don't know what's driving the consumer thought process. And obviously it comes down to energy when it comes down to passion, being passionate about what you're doing. There's excitement in everything you do. Celebrate everything. We believe in celebrating everything here at Homesmart as well as in our associates' lives. So that excitement and energy is contagious when they'll know that you're passionate about what you're doing.
So Dean, I missed one. So I have empathy and energy. What was the first E?
Excellence. Striving for excellence in what you do, knowing your market, knowing what's going on in certain market segments or your geographical territory, understanding the data, because the data is what drives that excellence in accomplishing their goals.
So are those 3 E's, are they part of your core values, or are they just something that you do in your training process?
Yes, we strive for excellence in everything that we do, and ultimately that trickles down to every bit of customer service when it comes to our associates. I mean, they're our customers. So yes, we celebrate everything, here, and, whatever it is, whether it's a small event in somebody's lives or a big event in somebody's lives or a milestone that we reach as a company. So absolutely, it's in our core values, but we make sure that it's in their core values with how they conduct their business as well.
So one of the questions I had as you were going through that is, when you talked about the mastermind and the mentorship and being part of the first 5 transactions, do you create a revenue share program where the mentor gets to participate financially as well, so there's some reward for their time, or are they just volunteering?
Yeah. Yes, no, there is compensation involved, because ultimately, while none of our coaches are doing it for the money, we realize that time is valuable. So in our structure, our new associates are on a 70-30 split, and the 30% is divided where the coach receives 15%, the program director receives 10%, and the company retains 5%. So it's a mutual success program where everybody benefits when the new associate is productive.
I think that's awesome. You made me think about when I started speaking. I went to my speaking mentor and I said, I'm gonna start doing seminars. What does that look like? And he gave me 3 E's. And my 3 E's were entertain, enlighten, and empower. So just
really?
you said those 3 E's, and it took me back 20 years ago to sitting in the office of Henry Marsh telling me that I had to entertain, enlighten, and empower if I ever wanted to make it as a speaker. And I firmly believe that your 3 E's, thank you, and your 3 E's to be successful in real estate are spot on. Excellence in everything you do, have the data to back it up. Empathy and really understanding where the client is and doing the right thing is huge, asking the right questions. And then the passion at which you deliver it. If you don't have that, then no one's interested. I love your passion for your agents. I'm sure that's a big reason why you've had the success you've had as a broker owner.
Yeah, thanks. No, I appreciate that. And that trickles down to each segment of our realtor base, because while we're excited about our mentorship program, we also have our mastermind programs for our seasoned agents. We have a number of top producing teams here at Homesmart in our marketplace. So we've got to cater to each level of success in order to make sure that they have what they need, whether it's coaching as a team leader, assisting with team members and involvement within a team, and solopreneurs, people who are out there, day to day in the industry without a team backing them, and how do they balance that busyness in everyday business.
I love it. If you were to give any broker owner that's on the call today, any advice to maintain their growth during the busy season so it doesn't slow down in the fall, what would you tell them that, here's 2 things that you should do right now?
Well, 2 things that you should do. First of all, a lot of what I do is driven on relationships. And, I'm involved in many things. I think brokers are unfortunately not as involved and engaged in the industry as they need to be. I urge everyone to get involved in local boards of realtors, committees, whatever that looks like. Get involved in the industry, even if it's just simply attending events because people are too busy to volunteer their time. Many of my relationships are built because of my involvement in the industry. This year, I happen to be the president of the Rhode Island Association of Realtors. I've been involved in local boards of realtors and on different committee levels. And when you remain active and engaged, you remain in the forefront of people's minds, and ultimately relationships are formed from that. So I highly recommend that. It's attributed to much of our success here in Rhode Island based on the relationships. And other than that, I feel that ultimately it's about follow through, follow up and follow through on everything that you promised. I think, unfortunately, there are a lot of empty promises when I interview with associates who are transitioning from another brokerage. In a lot of respects, it's because they didn't get what was promised. They were told everything that was being offered, but it wasn't all delivered. So I think the key is to have systems in place to make sure that as a brokerage, you're delivering everything that you promised. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on anything, because it is a transient industry. Agents will leave. They are running their own individual businesses. And I'm a firm believer, agents need to be where they feel they belong. The question is, do they feel they belong with your brokerage? And are you providing everything that was promised?
I know that there's a song about that, maybe Taylor Swift, that sings a song about unkept promises. And I think that's a great motto for broker owners out there, that agents leave because of unkept promises. And I think that's so true. Great advice. And if she doesn't have a song, then she should.
I'll check in with her. You said it was Taylor Swift. She has a house here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I'm sure that Carrie,
I'll pop by and talk to her about that.
Yeah, do that. So, Dean, I hope you'll stay on with us as we go through and we get to meet Carrie. And as we get to have questions towards the end of the call, I'd love to have you just stay with us. Thank you for that great information and for sharing what you're doing to help you with your tremendous growth. And congratulations on your success.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
So our next guest, and I'm excited to introduce, I've got to change my accent. So, I almost, whenever I talk to somebody from New England, I think about watching Deadliest Catch. And fortunately, Dean does not sound like any of them on Deadliest Catch. That's one of my favorite shows. Or Wicked Tuna. Wicked Tuna is the other one. That's the guys out of New Hampshire or Massachusetts. I don't know where they're from, but they have such strong accents. We have Carrie Zeier here from Nashville, Tennessee. And Carrie has a sweet Southern accent and a sweet business to go along with it. She owns a RE/MAX office. She's the owner and CEO of RE/MAX Elite. She has 5 different offices located in Nashville, Brentwood, Hendersonville. I can't even say, is it Murfreesboro?
Murfreesboro.
It's just Murfreesboro. Okay, and Columbia. That's just a huge. You're covering a huge area. She's former RE/MAX International Broker Owner of the Year. She was recently honored as RISMedia Trendsetter in Real Estate for 2019. Congratulations for that, by the way.
Thank you.
She's RE/MAX Elite. Her offices are #1 in RE/MAX in the region in volume, in number of transactions, and in agent count. And according to Real Trends, she's ranked 32 in the United States out of all RE/MAX offices for 2018. So just a phenomenal business. She launched the opening of Motto Mortgage in 2018 and was ranked #2 in the USA for volume the same year she launched. So this is a doer, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Carrie to the call. Carrie, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing with us today.
No, this is awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And Dean did an amazing job, really, coming from the broker owner position. It is a lot of work, but it's so rewarding, especially when you see your agent achieving on a high level. And that's really what I'm about. That is where my passion is in how to increase the agent's business and really teach them the skills of how to be the best CEO in their business. And when you start thinking like that and they start seeing the results, it's addictive and they start soaring to greater heights. Recently it came out, we're about 230 agents, which in Nashville, I was ranked 7th. Locally in Nashville, the 6 above me that were ranked really had like 800 agents or more. But in sales, we started off 8 years ago, we were a $325 million company. And 8 years later, we ended about $975 million. So we're not that far behind in sales, competing with companies that have 800 to 1,000 agents. So we're very transactional. We look at how many transactions per agent. So we're a very high producing office. And I think it does go back to really the training and the coaching that we've tried to implement with each agent.
Well, I love the energy behind that. And I love the average individual agent production, I think, makes such a big difference. When you mentioned Dean before and his thought process on helping your agents become CEOs, you can't get to that level of production if they don't run their business like a business, can you?
Absolutely. And go ahead, Dean.
No, I was just agreeing. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, it is. No, I just think it is. I grew up in a big business and I've changed that mindset into the real estate world. And that is how I coach. So one of the programs that I actually wanted to share was my Road to Diamond program. And it's very much, it crosses over really a lot of what Dean has said as well, but it's coaching agents and how to be successful. And of course, as an agent, you wear so many hats. The high producers are high producers for a reason, But when I really study them and how they work and how everything is done, is they just have tremendous systems in place. And one of those, of course, is Road to Diamond, it is Road to Diamond because Diamond is in the RE/MAX system is GCI of $1 million+. A lot of, my success within RE/MAX Elite has been taking agents, say the $3 to $5 million agent, and turning their businesses into 15, 25 million plus. And it's amazing. It produces loyalty, and also creates the culture, of the company. But within Road to Diamond, we do focus a lot on prospecting. And I go back to the old-fashioned way of prospecting is actually call and connect with your database. So that is a big part of what I teach and I believe in. And as Dean said, there's a lot of ways to get business of today, especially, 10 years ago, we didn't get the internet leads or stuff like that you can get of today in the social media. And all of that is great. But to me, that is just different parts. I call them pillars of business. And I teach my agents to definitely keep those going. You need 5 to 7 pillars of business. And absolutely, if you're a top agent, many of my top have 12 to really 18 pillars of business, which is incredible. But it still goes back to you can multiply your business by actual prospecting. And that means picking up the phone and actually calling your database. But a part of my teaching is I'm very strategic, and I try to not make it overwhelming to the realtors. If you've ever spoken to people, it's like they get 1% of what you're saying. So I try to make it very targeted with an action that they can go out and implement and see the results. So an easy part of that is, for them to focus on their VIP list. And I started the VIP list when actually I moved to Nashville about 12 years ago. And when I came to town, I had a great real estate business going in Atlanta, Georgia as a realtor. When I moved to Nashville, I did not have a sphere of influence. And in Nashville, especially 10 years ago, everyone knew, everybody's granddaddy and daddy and all that. And I didn't know anyone. I didn't, it's a country music town. That's what I thought. And I came, and I was only going to be here temporarily and move back to Atlanta. But I got here and I fell in love with the city, and I was trying to build my real estate career. So I started going out and calling people and setting up coffee appointments. And I met 3 people a day, 5 days a week for over a year. And it changed my life. It changed my business. And those contacts that I met by doing that became this enormous database, and they are still feeding my business today, 12 years later. So I'm a believer in it. So what I do with my agents is I teach them, if maybe you don't have your VIP list, maybe you don't have even 10 people that you would say for sure will give you business. If not, go meet those people, go interact, it is a relational business, and start growing that. And it is a game changer if you haven't done that, because many people say, well, I've got this big old database. If you're not working your database, you're not reaping the benefits. Sometimes the database can be too big and it's overwhelming. So really and truly, I start with the basics of get 25 people that are loyal to you and that they are your VIPs, and start working them. And then we implement systems, of course, in place of how to do that, how many phone calls, how many follow-ups, drop-bys, and all that. But it absolutely does work. And I know we're in a ever-changing technology world, which is fabulous, but I still believe in the basics of prospecting and helping others.
So I love that. I love the concept of Road to Diamond, and Diamond is $1 million of gross closed income. That's a lofty goal. Can you do it? Is it a doable goal?
Well, you know what? I've coached many that have achieved. When I first got into RE/MAX Elite, I only had one team that ever had achieved that. And we've moved on to, later we had 4 diamonds just this year, which if you think was, say, 200 agents and you have 4 teams that are diamond producers, that's pretty remarkable. Also, but I'm very, we also have those that produce 250 to 500,000. There's different categories, and that's a lot of our agents. And that is an incredible career of any business, especially in real estate. So it does work, but there's just different systems. And as Dean says, it's more of, you've got to be the CEO of your business. And when agents are taught that, they value you more. There's more culture in your company. And of course, success is exciting. It's great. And it's fun to watch them grow. And of course, it grows your brokerage as well.
So I love that. So as you talk about your road to diamond, you talk about the first thing being, building your top 20 VIPs, the most people that are either going to do business with you or refer business to you, and you want them to start with 30 minutes a day. Give me a few of the other specific things that you would have your agents do to create consistency in their business.
Well, with the prospecting, it is more than 30 minutes a day, but where I started with, there were some people that were absolutely terrified at the even thought of who am I going to go call every day. So, of course, that's why we started the VIP list, and let's focus on that as you're building your database. But the actual prospecting hours, my best teams, my diamond teams, prospect 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. They have great systems in place. So that's 4 hours a day of prospecting. To a $3 to $5 million agent, that's probably sometimes of what I've experienced that intimidates them. So what I've done is do something. It's kind of like working out. Do something. You don't have to go run the marathon the first day, but just a walk will start it, then a jog, then a run. So they have had success when they've started 30 minutes, and then maybe they get into an hour, or 30 minutes in the afternoon and 30 minutes, morning then afternoon. But once any agent starts seeing the success, of course, then it becomes addictive and they start building their system. So that's my 30 minutes a day thing.
You sound like a true coach. It's funny that you brought that up, that your busiest people prospect the most. Do you think there's any correlation there?
Absolutely. Exactly. But it is, but I try not to, because we all are different. And, some of my agents that are the extreme extroverts, they love to go to the parties. They love to go network. They're the very ones that don't want to prospect, because it's more of, it's more organization. Who are you calling? All those things. But prospecting, as I teach, changes your life today. You cannot tell me that if you go call 100 people today that you're not going to get any business. Absolutely you will. Marketing is awesome. I'm a believer. I have a full director of marketing. We have tons of teaching and training on it, but they're two separate things. Marketing is not today. It's branding. It's in the future. You will get business on that, but prospecting can change your business and your life today. So obviously I'm passionate about it.
Me too. I love it. I love that your process. People just don't talk about just picking up the phone, making calls, call your 100 people, whatever it takes. You don't even have to be that good at it. If you make enough calls and you talk to enough people, you're going to get opportunities to present. And that's really our goal, isn't it?
Right. Well, and I think prospecting has a bad word. It's like you're not necessarily calling. Yes, you do ask for business. Who do you know? But you're also checking in on them, thanking them, or if they've been a past client, catching up with them, seeing how they're doing, what's happening in their life. Yes, we ask for their business, but we're forming a relationship. And I think that's the part that many, gloss over. Is just, I'm not just going to pick up the phone. Hey, Verl, who do you have for me? Are you ready to buy or, sell a home? It's more, hey, how are you? I know you've just had an anniversary. Congratulations. That's a whole different phone call.
Well, it's comfortable because you're building the relationship, not trying to sell them something.
Yes, absolutely. So, but I have included in part of some slides to share really about some of the ways I have taught the Road to Diamond.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that. She gave us a whole slide deck of, and I'll give this to you on the download page at the end of the webinar, which is basically her training on Road to Diamond, is how do you get to $1 million in commission, and it's a roadmap that's very well thought out, and clearly it's proven to be successful. So as a brokerage, tell me a little bit about what you're doing to prepare for the peaks and valleys in the business. What are some of the ancillary things that you're doing?
You know, I've always had ancillary business. I have more of today because I've steadily built it. But from day one with REMAX Elite, yeah, I started with mortgage and title. And I do this for many reasons. One is it does make the brokerage money. But if you think about it, if you have a big wheel in front of you, in the middle, the realtors, right? And all the spokes on the side, there's so much of part of our business that we keep, you know, we're involved in through the entire transaction. So what I did is all my offices have a cafe, and we have surrounding the cafe, we have the alliances. And that is the ancillary income for the office. As you mentioned, I did open up Motto Mortgage last year. It was great, and I opened it in March, and from March to December, we came in number 2 in volume in the United States. But the funny part about that is I was already in a mortgage relationship, and everyone thought when I joined Motto that the other relationship was going to be gone. And I think I'm the only one in the country within REMAX that did a Motto and kept the other lender as well. Everyone thought I was crazy. They thought I would be terrible at Motto by doing that. But I looked at it totally different, because here we're close to $1 billion in sales. That's $500 million on the buy side. We have way more lenders than 2, so why not use both? And I think for our agents, as I told them, and I mean it, yes, the company makes money off of it, but it also provides the best services that we can to their clients, and it's a great environment. So I do have Motto. I do have SWBC Mortgage, actually, is the other company that is part of REMAX Elite. Obviously, we have title. I have ownership in the title company, and it's also been with me from the beginning and has done a tremendous job. I have insurance, home inspection, and home warranty. So I think they're vital to any company. How they are very successful within REMAX Elite. 2 of the key things that I do to promote that and to keep it going, because obviously the win-win is for them to be making money as well, of course. So I have every month a kickoff in each of my offices. All of the alliances come in. I make sure that their portion is entertaining and upbeat and not long, because during these kickoff meetings, no one wants to hear a 20-minute dissertation on home insurance. But I let them speak. I keep it 2 to 3 minutes, but I also want it to be valuable for the agent so that they know that segment of the market, what's going on with home insurance. How can they have better knowledge to help their clients? Of course, the same with mortgage is easy, because it's like, what are rates? What are we doing in the market? What are different products that they can promote to help go get other buyers? So I've tried to make the ancillary business more beneficial for the agents, which in return, everyone gets business, all around. The other thing I do besides, I do one other big thing besides the kickoff. Since for 8 years now, I've done a wind down Wednesday, the last Wednesday of every month, and we do it all over town. And actually, all the ancillary businesses help pay for the wind down. All agents are invited. Everyone gets to network. It creates culture, but it also gives back to to the mortgage, the title. Then they get to meet agents one-on-one, and I get to help them meet maybe the new agents, and it works. It's been great. Like I said, we've done it for 8 years now, and I don't see me stopping it anytime soon.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So the ancillary businesses are key to your success overall from a profitability standpoint. Do you have any issues staying compliant with the ancillary businesses that you own? And what would you recommend that a broker does to make sure they stay compliant?
Get a good attorney and make sure you're in compliance. I could only speak for Tennessee. I am completely in compliance here. I own Motto with SWBC. They rent space. We do everything like you should. It also helps me that I have 2 lending companies in there. It's a benefit, actually. Title company, I have ownership in it, so they're not paying me. There's no marketing alliance. So, but of course, if I think all the broker owners would know, definitely, I have made sure that I'm in compliance. I've gone to an attorney and making sure everything's good, but because it is a different world. I think 2013, 14, it changed a lot. But anyway, it does work, and it's very effective, and it's a win-win for the agents, the brokerage, and the alliances.
I think that's great. So how are you preparing your agents going forward to deal with some of the new things that are happening in industry? Something like, this isn't one of the questions I had up there, but I'd like to ask both of you this. But talk a little bit about how you deal with iBuyers. Do you give your agents dialogue? Is that something you've had to address in your market yet?
For us, they're coming. I mean, we're in the South. It comes here I know it's just hitting here to really deal with that. I still teach them it's a relational business here in Nashville. People need agents, but I also teach them to earn their worth. When you have a great experience and you're a full service realtor, there's no comparison to what else is out there. And so right now, that's what we're focused on. And, but like I said, we have not been hit that hard with it right now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I'll ask Dean the same question here in just a second. But Carrie, as you're giving brokers advice today, if you were to tell them to pick 1 or 2 things that would make the biggest impact on keeping consistency in their business and eliminating the peaks and valleys, what would those couple of key things be?
Well, for mine, it's always training and giving back to the agents and creating a culture that, is a win, is fun and inviting. There's a lot of competition out there. A lot of the competitions hit the Nashville market. But agents, as Dean said, if they change, they're changing for a reason. And, I dig down into my business. Why would they leave me? And let's go fill those holes in. But if they are producing and it is in a conducive environment with a great culture, and they see, agents like that, as if you look at the typical personality of a realtor, that's what they are attracted to. So I try to stay on the cutting edge with technology, what's coming around the corner, their training, and their success. Rarely have I ever had anyone that is so successful leave. So we're just very diligent in their success and their goals, whatever their goals are. Not everyone honestly wants to be the $50 million agent. So I'm very careful at what are your goals and how can I help you get there? And I think when they feel like they have a broker owner like that, then there's loyalty, and it's again a win for everyone.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate the thoughts. Both of you have just given a lot of great ideas and great thoughts on that. Dean, if you don't mind if I ask you the same question, are you doing anything with your agents? Or are you having to deal with some of the disruptors out there like an iBuyer? And the reason I'm asking is because this is a question that's come up on the questions board.
Yes, no, I can appreciate that. We've seen that come into our market, but it is not a predominant percentage of our market at this time. So I think we're seeing it evolve more and more in many different segments. You know, and ultimately, as you mentioned, there are so many different models out there. The key is to stay ahead of it and to understand, you know, what those models are, what they represent, and where you stand in your own business in relation to them to compete favorably. So I can't say that it's a large percentage of our market at this time.
Yeah, you know, if Carrie, if you went back to Atlanta, you'd be dealing with it. It seems to hit the big major metropolitan areas first, and then it goes to the rest of the country, because our Atlanta brokers are definitely dealing with that.
Right.
Another question that came up, and I'll just ask this of both of you, is Dean, you talked about networking, and John asked the question, why would I network with my competition? What's the value of that? And I know you're going to have a good answer for it.
I have a great answer to that, actually.
Yeah, go ahead, Dean.
No, you want me to start? Thanks. Sorry, I thought you had mentioned my name. Okay, cool. Ultimately, I feel that relationships in the industry are critical to our success. I go back to when I got in the business 30 years ago. Currently, in Rhode Island, we have 4,000 single-family homes on the market. When I got in the business 30 years ago, there were 13,000 single-family homes on the market. It was a drastic buyer's market. And average days on market was 180 days versus now we're just around 60 days average days on market. When I look at that market back then, we were begging for showing. Some realtors, unfortunately, were asking friends or family to come in and pose as buyers just so they could tell their sellers that they sold their home. Well, I don't condone that method. It was happening. So I took a stance that as a new associate, I needed to go out and befriend other agents in the industry, because I'm a firm believer people like to work with people that they like, people they can connect with on a level other than just transactional. So I created relationships by getting involved in the industry, getting to know agents, going to events. And when you know people, if you have too many homes to show and you're in that market and you're trying to figure out which ones to show, because back then we didn't even have the MLS computer, ultimately agents wanted to show the ones that they knew they'd enjoy working with in a transaction. So I got more showings on my listings. I got more showings when I had a buyer and needed to get in. And ultimately those relationships continued throughout the years.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Carrie, what about you? Do you work with, develop relationships with other agents in your marketplace besides the ones that are with your company?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I actually, before I purchased RE/MAX, I was Keller Williams. I started Keller Williams in Atlanta, came here, was their team leader, and then ended up buying RE/MAX. But they're a classic example of, I've got so many friends there. Not all joined me at RE/MAX, and everybody has their different reasons. I've got other great friends in different brokerages. And a lot of what Dean said is, we all work in this town as professionals. We're all realtors. But at the same time, in the future, you never know what changes. You know, something may happen at another company. It's just, why burn any bridges? So no, I'm an advocate of our industry and getting to know as many people in our industry as possible and supporting each other.
Whether they join your brand or not.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and I'll even add to that a little bit more, if I may. You know, ultimately, those relationships, even now as a broker, you know, with agents in the industry, agents don't want to be recruited everywhere you go. The last thing you need is to be that guy who walks into a room and the crowd parts because they're just afraid of being recruited. No, recruiting is about building relationships and you know, showing your value and just being confident in your value. Ultimately, when people see that you feel confident in your value, they're going to want to know more about it. So, you know, I'm fortunate that we have agents who are seeking information about our brokerage as opposed to me being on the phone every day making phone calls.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Great feedback and advice. We have clients that network in the same market with top agents and teams, and they all compete against each other. And when you ask them why they network and why they get together once a month, they say, because we sell each other's houses, and we know we're going to deal with someone that is high integrity, that runs a good business, that knows that deals are going to get closed. And so we network with our competition because, you know, that's where the business happens, is with people that are elite.
Right.
Right. Clients will come and go. We will all work together again. So we need to work well together in doing so.
Great parting thoughts from two great leaders. I appreciate both of you being here. We've got a few things that we're going to give away. Imprev gave us the time better spent series of, and I guess you're going to have to tell me what's in this download, because I don't have a description of it.
Oh, it's just a simple infographic that talks a little bit about listing automation and how it really enables all the great work that Dean and Carrie are talking about, and freeing agents up from doing the mundane to doing the strategic, creating empathy and making 4 hours of prospecting calls a day. So just some thoughts about listing automation and how it can help the business.
Love it. Thank you, and thank you for sharing that, Bill. And then Chet heard me talk about the Daily Success Habits, so he threw it in as a giveaway. The Daily Success Habits Tracker is a downloadable, fillable PDF that allows you to track the activities you do during a day that create a predictable result. And Carrie offered to give everybody the ability to download The Road to Diamond, her slide deck on how she takes agents from wherever they are to $1 million in gross closed income. I appreciate all of the giveaways. Make sure you go to workmansuccess.com/RISJune, and you get all of these things. If you want to learn more about how we can help your business grow, we'll just click on the Give Me More Information button, and we'll help you with that. You'll also receive, after this webinar, an email with a link where you can go in and have a recorded copy of the link on YouTube. So thank you for being here. On behalf of RISMedia and Imprev, Workman Success Systems, deTonnancourt and Carrie Zeier, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing so much today. We wish you a great rest of your summer, and let's kick it up a notch as we go into our busy selling season, so our fall continues to grow instead of takes that dip that we're so afraid of. Thanks everybody for being here, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.